believe the reports, as I said, are too many to be coincidental. So we are seeing a concerted campaign to attack the Church of Almighty God, orchestrated by CCP. So it's not a coincidence, it's a global campaign against the Church of Almighty God, and the aim is to justify the persecution. The accusations are largely false. So we have seen the McDonald accusation, which is false, but then there is something else. They talk about 2012. And how it is presented, the story is false. Meaning, even if we take a book which is not sympathetic to the Church of Almighty God, the book by Emily Dunn, and it's a book quoted by CCP itself, in this book, the conclusion of Emily Dunn is that some believers of the Almighty God, but the Almighty is a large group in China, talking of millions of people, did take the ideas in the air about the end of the world in 2012, but she, Emily Dunn, writes clearly that this was not sanctioned by the leaders of the Church of Almighty God and is not part of their theology. So if we say, as the Hong Kong pro-CCP journals say, that the Church of Almighty God as a church announced the end of the world for 2012, that's not true. There were some ideas picked up probably by many Chinese, including some believers of the Church of Almighty God, based on so-called Maya prophecies, very Western ideas, that the world will gonna end in 2012. But that was not a teaching of the Church of Almighty God as a church, and will not be typical of the Church of Almighty God. Many people, of course, believed in 2012, and it became part of sort of pop culture, popular culture, I mean, all over the world. And I am not surprised that even some believers of the Church of Almighty God discussed these popular theories. But I believe the conclusion of Emily Dunn to be correct, that the leaders of the Church of Almighty God did not endorse this theory that the world will end in 2012, and urged the believers to read the words of the Almighty God and to understand that there is, in the words of the Almighty God, as the Church reads them, there is no date for the end of the world or of this world.